Ready to dominate at the plate? Blast Baseball is trusted by more major league and college teams than any other hitting solution. The Blast sensor attaches to the knob of any bat, providing real-time feedback with every swing. Go to blastmotion.com and enter code NOWD1 at checkout to save $25. All right, everybody, it is 9 o'clock. Let's get right into it. We do this show every Monday through Thursday at 9 p.m. Eastern on X Spaces. I'm Alan Gay, and this is Now D1 Speaks. Hey, we got a special show tonight. We're going to step out of the baseball world just a little bit, but we're going to be speaking with someone who's going to have a big impact on not only baseball players, but just athletes in general. We've got Aaron Hine with us. He's just outside of Nashville, Tennessee. He owns his own gym. He's got a background in health and human performance, got a master's in exercise physiology, ex-football player. I think we're really fortunate to have him. Hey, Aaron, are you there?
Hey, man, how are you?
I'm doing fantastic, man. So glad to talk with you. And thank you for taking a few minutes to kind of step out and meet with us. Absolutely appreciate it.
Yes, sir. I appreciate the opportunity. Hopefully somebody can learn something.
Yeah, I hear you. We're looking forward to it. Why don't you kind of kick it off? Maybe just give us a little introduction of who you are and a little bit of your background.
Yeah, so like you said, my name's Aaron Hine. I'm out of Nashville, Tennessee. So I live about 30 miles west, and my gym is about 20 miles south. So I kind of grew up all over the Southeast. I've been in Tennessee since 1999, kind of off and on. I wasn't really probably the most athletic in high school, but kind of got the itch for training and lifting weights probably around after my junior year. So I was kind of a late bloomer as far as working out and getting into those things. But ended up kind of getting hooked on that and ended up having an opportunity to play in get a small scholarship offer at an NAIA school called Lambeth University in Jackson, Tennessee. So funny story was I'd never heard of the school. I was on a field trip at the time, and my dad told me that some coach could come to see me, and I was like, I don't even know where this place is. So I ended up going on like a visit with a buddy of mine. Like my parents didn't even go because I wasn't really sure I wanted to go there and play. We went to the orientation and ended up accepting the offer and playing there at Lambeth. I kind of weighed in at 235 pounds as an offensive lineman. So if that takes you anywhere, I'm a small guy. I probably should have been a linebacker, but I was too small. So I played 2004, 2006, and like some, just wasn't. I was passionate at the time, but kind of lost that itch after not a lot of playing time, and just didn't really see myself moving forward as far as being either a coach or furthering my career and anywhere else. So I ended up leaving and going to University of Tennessee at Martin, where I completely talked myself out of playing college football. I've ended up graduating there, but in the meantime, during that time, I didn't play sports. I got really kind of overweight. I always had the passion, working out, like I said before, but I just ate super unhealthy. There was a Chinese buffet in town. It was like $5 with a water. And when you're balling on a college budget, like that was the place to be. I ate there like 5 times a week. So, man, I gained so much weight and it was awful. So what really led me to kind of changing that, I went from like 235 to like 270 in a matter of like probably 2 years. And I came home one weekend and, parents give you the best advice. And so we were talking about what I was going to major in. And my mom's like, you can't be telling people what to do. And you're kind of, you've gained some weight a little bit, in the nicest way possible. She didn't mean it mean, but it was just like, you can't be telling other people what to eat and how to work out when you yourself aren't really taking your own advice. So, I took that advice from her and that fair warning of I need to do something about it. So I ended up dropping a ton of weight from that, coming home after I graduated in 2009, trying to find a job. I thought I was going to conquer the world as an undergraduate. Ended up not doing any of that. I ended up working for my father-in-law in a grocery store of all places. Wasn't my father-in-law at the time, but I was ordering groceries and doing all that kind of stuff. But fast forward to 2011, I ended up going to grad school at Florida State. I'm a Florida State alumni. I've been a Florida State fan since I was 3 years old. And I got there and I thought I knew everything until my professor looked at me and said, Your research background is horrible, and I wish you the best of luck, and I hope you survive the next 2 years of graduate school." And I was like, "Holy cow, that's pretty mean." I wasn't really sure how to take that, so I was like, gathered my thoughts and walked out of her office, and was like, "Maybe I'm not in the right place." But I pushed through and graduated, and then I moved back to Tennessee in 2011. Um, and from there, man, I've done everywhere from working at the local YMCA to I was a health coach for 3 years. I worked in a real big orthopedic clinic doing pre and post op training for general pop and athletics. For the last almost 8 years now, I've owned my own training facility. So I would say I specialize working with the moms and dads of the athletes. So 45 and 50, 45 and up, but also the sports performance aspect. I have after school during those hours after we have third grade up to seventh grade is our middle school sports performance, and then we work with eighth graders all the way up to seniors. And the reason I do it eighth grade through seniors because I want eighth graders to be well informed of what they need to do or how to do things when they're in college or when they get to high school. Because I have found doing this over the last 14 years that a lot of high school kids or when they get to be a freshman, they have no idea what's coming for them. So I try to prepare them somewhat decently to where they know what to expect. And then we work with college semi-pro athletes, and then I've worked with pro athletes before, so they're probably not my go-to. They're very high maintenance, and I'm human as well. I don't want to be going through an assistant or working around their schedule. Sometimes that's difficult, but I also work with some semi-pro athletes as well, just trying to keep them healthy. So that's kind of where we are today, man. I'm rocking and rolling, 8 years into it, and I feel pretty good about things.
Man, you are rocking and rolling. What a great introduction. Thank you for walking through all that. So many questions are kind of popping up. And for everyone that's listening, just to kind of give you an idea, hey, Aaron and I don't necessarily know each other. We had an opportunity to hop on the phone earlier this week and just kind of say hello. I saw his background. I know what our core audience is all about. I thought it may be a good fit. We were very, very fortunate for him to hop on. So this is fascinating. I think this is just an opportunity for us to kind of get to know each other. And I got to tell you, you're in a great area, Nashville, Tennessee, Brentwood, Tennessee. I mean, that is fantastic part of the country. You're very, very fortunate to be there. But let me kind of ask you something. I want to take a step back and walk through your football career. And I think one of the things that's really important to our core audience, which is really uncommitted baseball athletes, prospects, they're looking for the right fit. And when you talk about Lambeth, and I'm not familiar with that college, I think you said it was in Jacksonville, Tennessee, or Jackson.
It's Jackson, yeah. So it's kind of halfway between Nashville and
Okay,
Memphis.
I got a general sense there. So going a little bit west in Tennessee, still probably fairly central, but heading west. Um, let me ask you something. You know, you weren't necessarily, you didn't even know where it was at the time, and you go there. What was it that ultimately led you to say, you know what, I think this may really be a good fit for me, and I do want to accept their offer and kind of head to Lambeth. What was it in particular that led you there?
Yeah, so I was like kind of my only opportunity to be honest with you. I wasn't, I was probably offensive region I don't know what the accolades were. Like I had academic region player of the year or offensive lineman, whatever. I mean, there wasn't an all-state awards, but I went because I mean, it was either go there or go to community college and I didn't want to stay home. So it was kind of one of those things like it was the only opportunity, so I wanted to make the best of it. And it wasn't necessarily like the biggest school. I mean, literally, you could look out the front of the dorm, front door, and see every building on campus pretty much. So, I mean, it was walkable, probably, I don't know, 800, 900 kids. So, very similar to the high school setting. So, and I mean, little did I know that most of the classrooms were like 15 to maybe 20 people. So, and the baseball team was, even when I was there, I mean, the football team was good, but the baseball team, I think, was even better than that. So I mean, it's just the right fit of small kind of community feel. I knew nobody. I walked onto campus not knowing anybody, but I've met some of my best friends. Taking that opportunity, even though I left. Some of them are one of my buddies is probably best friend to this day, and he's a college football coach right now. So I think that's the biggest thing is like taking the opportunity where it is. I mean, because right now you're not a lot of guys are given the opportunity they think they deserve. And it's not like I deserve like a Division II. I just, I took it and ran with it for the best,
No,
right? So maybe other opportunities could come of it,
no
right?
question about it. Thank you so much for kind of walking through that. I appreciate it. I tell you what, it absolutely kind of puts you on a path to where you are today. There's no question about it. You made the right decision. I think that's fascinating. And I love that you end up going to UT Martin. Ultimately, that's where you get your bachelor's degree and then step out to go to FSU for graduate school. I'm in Florida, I'm down in Orlando. What led you to Tallahassee eventually?
Well, so like I'm kind of I don't want to say the outcast of the family. My family is big Alabama fans. I've always been a Florida State fan ever since I can remember. I'm in my office downstairs, and I've got kind of a shrine to Bobby Bowden and Mickey Andrews for football, even baseball. I mean, I was there kind of in the heat of a pretty good baseball run as well. But I applied to MTSU, Middle Tennessee State University. I got through like part of the application, then Tennessee State, which is down the road, and I just kind of felt like I needed to be out, somewhere else as opposed to being in state. And I mean, I applied. I took a group of buddies down to the last like home football game, and then my mom calls me. I was actually in the bookstore on campus. She's like, "You'll never guess what I got in the mail," and I'm like, "What?" And she's like, "I got your acceptance letter," and I was like, "Hot dog!" I'm pumped up. For, yeah, maybe a little hectic there, but that was, I think it was meant to be. I mean, the out-of-state tuition wasn't, but it was the best place I thought for me to get my um, graduate degree as far as furthering my education.
Heck
So
yeah, man. Can't go wrong with FSU. There's no question about it. And you were there at a great time. And yeah, I tell you what, Coach Martin is during his tenure in the baseball program, he absolutely had it going the right direction. There's no question. Hey, FSU's got a big game Saturday, right? You looking forward? I would assume you're thinking FSU is going to pull it out against Clemson. I got to believe, right?
yeah, I've been to Death Valley, and man, a horrible experience. We got beat the time I was there. I had a buddy in grad school there. I went down to visit him, and I was in the student section with my FSU gear on with a jacket on because it's like that's the thing you don't do. You don't wear the opposing fans' stuff in the student section. So it was embarrassing, but hopefully we'll pull it out. I usually don't get too excited until the game starts.
Hey, it should be a good week. I think everybody's looking forward to it. I'm sure I'm going to be watching about 12 o'clock to see what happens this Saturday. So, hey,
Yeah,
you
for
brought
sure.
up your mom. I love it too. Your mom's like, hey, if you're going to be into personal fitness here, man, you got to get yourself in shape. So let me ask you something. What really motivated you to pursue a career in fitness and wellness?
Well, I think so. I got started. So there was a guy on the high school football team. It was probably um, I don't know how old he was, but he was there, and his dad was a former bodybuilder. Um, with that, and he just invited me to work out in the gym one day, and I kind of got hooked on it. And so we worked out at the local Gold's Gym for quite a while, and I was like, man, this thing. I went from like benching the bar to like there's a plate on each side to maybe I can do something with it. So when I went to Lambeth, that was like kind of my thing. I wanted to do health and human performance with an emphasis in exercise science. But they had health and human performance to exercise with an emphasis in athletic training. And I wasn't a real big into athletic training. You had your ankles taped, you had all this stuff in school where you go there after practice, you get ice, and that just wasn't my thing. So I kind of took a liking to the guy I worked out with, and he kind of taught me a lot about what I needed to do and how to be strong and be successful and what it took. And that's kind of where it kind of took off from there. So on top of that, I mean, my goal, I guess, when I got to like probably back to 2010 was always to own my own gym too. So I didn't know anything at the time about what to do and how to do it, but just put a plan in place. But that's kind of ultimately kind of how I got involved with that. Just got hooked on working out. I mean,
Good stuff. So, hey, everyone that's joining us this
yeah.
evening, thank you so much for being here. We absolutely appreciate you supporting Now D1 Speaks, and thank you for supporting Aaron Hines as well. We record this space, and so if you did jump in late, don't worry about it. One of the great things about recording it, we'll be able to retweet it out later in its entirety. So, Aaron, let me ask you, you mentioned maybe a little bit of an emphasis with working with 45, 50-year-olds, that type age group, but you really also mentioned like eighth graders as they're kind of going into high school. So let me kind of ask you, when you're working with a younger athlete, what are some of the principles that you really emphasize for them to improve their athletic ability, but also really ultimately to kind of improve who they are on and off the field, just as individuals?
Yeah, so I would take usually every kid, doesn't matter male or female, that comes in. My my goal for them is to one, I always try to look them in the eye because I mean, kids don't like to look you in the eye and tell you how they feel about things. It seems like too much anymore. But my goal for them is like, if you're going to give me effort, we're gonna show up and do what's asked, then we're gonna get the results we need. So if I can have that kind of commitment from them, even the parents too. I mean, the parents are kind of a key for that, letting them know expectations. This is what I expect for them. At times, I would take probably any athlete, but now I kind of weed those out. I'm very direct and very to the point. So if you're not going to come in, show up on time, do what's asked of you, then I just politely ask that you don't come back. And I think that's just more respect and kind of, once you get older, once you get in from eighth grade, ninth grade, 10th grade, you've got to take those kind of things you learned in my groups or whatever, and hopefully apply that to your sport coach, and to life in general. So if I can kind of instill, I say, respect, a little integrity, and kind of effort, energy, and um, all the things you need to be a better athlete, I think I've done a good job. Now, I would say not every kid lasts, but that's not anything against them. It's just they're not cut out for what I have in store for the program.
Hey, I love that, Aaron. I think that puts everybody on the right track because, hey, being a former college athlete, I mean, that's a big part of being successful at the next level is even if you're young, you need to have a sense of maturity about you. And if you're going to be mature, that really does include being responsible for yourself, being respectful to others, being able to show up on time, be able to apply effort, and to just quite honestly just work, just put in effort. So I think that's a great, valuable life lesson that you're absolutely teaching there. Let me ask you. One of the other things that you kind of touched on in your introduction was really working with semi-pro and professional athletes. Probably have worked with some retired professionals as well. What what were some of the lessons that maybe you gained by being able to work with those types of athletes that you've really been able to kind of instill on some younger athletes?
Yeah, I think it's just more of the work ethic, that what it took. I've got a former, I've been working with him for probably 10 years now. His name is Michael Archie. He was the backup to Eddie George. He's a running back for the Tennessee Titans. He was a five-star All-American, Penn State, was coached by Joe Paterno. And one of the things he always tells me is like, you've got to give effort to get effort, and a lot of times you have to do what's not asked of you to be successful. So I know a lot of, and some of the people on the call may think like, why is coach not giving me playing time? Why am I always sitting on the bench and I should be the one starting? My thought process is you got to give coach a reason not to play you. And if you can do that, then they're always going to, you're going to be the first man out on whether you're pitching or you're the, starter at second base, first base. So I think effort is there, and give him a reason not to play you. I mean, he's always given me a lot of lessons of Joe Paterno, and how, you know, he went to a school that had I think there were four five-star recruits. And he said, the reason he went there is because he knew what it was going to take and how he was going to be pushed, because he was always going to play the best player, and if he wasn't the best player in practice, then he wasn't getting any better, on the field in general. So it's just a matter of like giving the effort in practice was going to push him from a guy named Kajana Carter. He always mentioned as being the guy, the starter, but he wanted to go to the best place because he knew he was going to be pushed to be a better athlete. And I think sometimes that's right now, I guess, in the whatever sport you are, it doesn't matter. It's just like we always want to be the starter, but I always say when you're a freshman, it's hard. Like I didn't think I was going to start. I tried to give effort, But I think as you're the big man on campus in high school, you always think you should be the big man on campus in college. And I always tell kids that's not how this works. You've got to come in and be prepared and be the best freshman on the team. You don't want to be the laughing stock, right? You don't want to be the guy who coaches like, what the crap, man? You didn't do any offseason conditioning. You didn't pass any of your conditioning tests, your lift tests, anything like that. So if you can give, that reason to be the best, and then there's no reason you shouldn't start.
Good advice all the way around. No question about it. Man, I tell you what, being able to work with somebody who played under Paterno as well. I mean, that's big time stuff right there. I'm sure he shared tons of really insightful stories that meant a lot to him. And I'm sure that was really cool to hear for you, you know?
Yeah, and the thing with him is like he shares those stories because his kids were football players, and it's just things you can apply to any sport, right? So it's like the things that he learned from Joe Paterno, from more life lessons, because he came from a not so good area in Pennsylvania. He was raised by a single mom. His mom raised him, and just the things that he learned to be a better, football player, a better father. When he had a kid in college. So just the things that people, I guess, more or less is not a father figure, but a mentor you can look up to ask advice and to find things, when you're in a tough spot. I mean, that's always good to have. And that's something I do with the kids I have. I try to teach them, like, this is how I screwed up and this is what you need to do not to screw up. But if we can take those things in the weight room and I don't say prepare them for life. I think I've done a good job. So my job as a strength coach is right to get you faster, get you stronger. But I think there's more to that. If I can make you a better person in the classroom, if I can make you a better person in society, you got a job. You know what to do, how to be actually successful. I think that's always good too. So there's a lot of things that I would say kind of go back to is like a lot of lessons I've learned from pro athletes and even semi-pro. Like, sometimes your time is cut short too. I had a pro football player I trained from junior year all the way up to it was a 4-year starter. I think a 4-year or 3-year starter at University of Mizzou, and then ended up was supposed to be a first round draft pick in the NFL, and then ended up sliding all the way out of the draft and bounced around from 3 different teams and went undrafted, bounced around, and then ended up cutting his career short just due to injury.
Hmm.
So you just never know when your time's gonna either be there or it's gonna cut short. But the things that he learned, and I taught him hopefully some things that he's instilled. Now he's a real estate investment guy in Nashville, making good money. So you just never know when your time's gonna be called or it's gonna be cut
No
short.
question about it. A couple of good things that you really kind of brought up that I'd like to talk a little bit more about. It's certainly with the last example, just kind of preparing, no matter how good of an athlete you are, you've always got to be prepared for when your career will end because it's going to end. And one of the best things that you can do to kind of help protect yourself and to really propel yourself into whatever career you go to is going to be being successful in the classroom. So, kind of talk to us just a little about that. And what I mean is, hey, our core audience of uncommitted high school baseball players, they're looking for an opportunity to play at the next level. But to be able to do that, they're going to have to be successful in the classroom as well as successful in the field. You've got experience. You know firsthand really what it took to be able to play a sport and go to school full time. So what are some of the things maybe that you're doing to kind of help some of these younger guys that you're working with really prepare themselves to be successful in both?
Yeah, so I think the biggest thing for guys that kind of overlook the fact that yes, I've got a scholarship to go play, and then when they step on campus, they're kind of like hit in the face with, oh my gosh, this is a lot of work. So I always have to tell guys like be prepared for a full-time job, and if you've never had a full-time job, um, once you graduate, you will because my schedule I can kind of break it down when I step foot on campus was one, you had if you didn't make your preliminary like testing score numbers like you were supposed to, our coach cut at dark 30. You woke up at 5 a.m. You walked down to the weight room. We had a roll call. If you didn't show up or if you were late, we had to go find you and get you out of bed. and we didn't start until everybody was there. So you basically would go from like 5 to 7 or 6:30, 6:45, shower, go eat breakfast, go to class maybe from 8 to 11. You ate lunch. You had probably 2.5 hours to get your homework done if you had time, or whatever you needed to do. And I think from 3:30 to 5:30 was practice. I think cafeteria closed at 7, so you had uh, probably by the time you changed clothes and got to the cafeteria, you had like maybe 30, 40 minutes to eat. And then it was back to your room, study hall, and then if you had film study, that was great. There were times I fell asleep in film because I was so tired from just being at practice and whatnot. So, I mean, it's on a routine and a schedule. And there is a little bit of downtime, but the downtime is on the weekend when you're not having to do a whole lot. So, I would say if you're not prepared to do that, then maybe college sports is not cut out for you. And I would say it probably got a little bit easier as you got into the rhythm. But if you're scatterbrained in high school and you're just kind of willy-nilly doing your homework and showing up, right on time, or you're 5 minutes late here or there, or you're not early, I would say it's going to be a little bit more challenging for you. And it may just be a little kind of reality check for you. Maybe tougher than most, but I would say have a plan, execute the plan, and things will probably be a little bit easier on you.
I think that's great advice. And I got to give you just a ton of credit too. I mean, when you said you were going to step out and, one of the first majors you were really looking at was exercise science. And it ultimately, it led you to health and human performance. And now you have your master's as well. But exercise, that's no joke. I mean, you absolutely, hey, if you're not doing anything but going to school, that's going to consume a lot of your time. I mean, there's so much biology that's going to be wrapped up in that. I mean, that in and of itself is a full-time job. And then to throw in a sport on top of it, I'm sure you were doing a lot of work.
Yeah, it was. I think I missed my first biology lab. I overslept. I don't even know why. It was like 7 o'clock in the morning or 7:30 with that. And a lot of my friends gave me crap. They were like biology majors, and I took the easy way out for the first couple. And I didn't take as many hours, so they were always giving me up and down the road about, I would say, my thought was if I could kind of decrease my load during season and then increase my load in the off season, I'd probably even out and be a little bit more of a pleasant person, but also a little bit more successful. Because I think if sometimes you get to where you're like, I've got to have like 16, 17 hours. That's a lot. Then I've got to have practice and I've got to have, maybe batting cage, pitching, whatever. That's a lot of time that you're eating up throughout that semester. So I would say pace it out. I mean, if you can graduate in 3 years, great. If you can do four, that's great. I graduated in five because when I transferred, I lost 25 credit hours. So I would say my biggest tip for kids is do not go to a school based on your sport. Like if you've got offers from 6 schools and you're like, oh my God, I love this school. They're great. They're way better than this other school. Be sure that you have the degree you want because when the sport ends, I mean, that's it. Like you've got to either finish school there and get a degree you don't want, or you've got to transfer. So there's a lot of things that I learned that, after I went there, I was like, yeah, football's great. And then I transferred and like 25 credit hours of stuff I've already paid for, I lost. So I had to go an extra year to finish that. And like, who wants to do that? That's like, my friends always said doctors go to school for 5 years or four, whatever, longer than I did. I was like, what? That never really clicked until after the fact. So go to school for your degree first and then go for your sport second. And that's what I tell all the kids now. And sometimes that's difficult. That's a hard thing to kind of manage because, one team may be better than the other or, whatever. They may not even have the degree you want. So that's the biggest piece of advice I give my athletes because, man, it's tough. When sport's over with, you're kind of like, it's depressing a little bit. I'm not gonna lie. There's kind of an empty feeling. Like, what do I do next? It's like, I don't know. Maybe give lessons or do something. Go join the local little league club and be a coach or something.
Aaron, I tell you what, you're really giving good advice. I mean, I think it's one of the biggest things that parents and prospects can really be looking at when they're on visits and so forth. And it sounds cliche, but you really need to kind of take sports out of your mind and say, hey, is this a school that you would just go to if you weren't playing a sport? And if it fits the criteria that you're really looking for, the distance from home, maybe the size, the culture that's there, the majors that's offered, that really is going to set you up for success if you're starting to say, yeah, it wouldn't matter if I was playing baseball, football, basketball. If I'm just a student, absolutely, this is where I want to go. I think that's going to set you up big time for success. And I got to tell you, in the baseball world, one of the driving factors is kind of going junior college first. A lot of kids coming out of high school go junior college, and from junior college, then they start looking at a 4-year school. One thing to obviously be cautious about is, will all of your credits transfer? So I really like what you were just kind of talking about. It is something to be aware of. You want to make sure maybe, that your major's quote unquote generic enough, and that you're taking the types of classes that you will be able to take everything with you, because you don't want to repeat. I mean, that makes it just very, very difficult. So I think you're bringing up great points, Aaron. Thank you so much for doing that. Hey, again, everyone that's joining, thank you so much. We absolutely appreciate you being here. I mentioned earlier that we record the space so that we can retweet it out later. We also record it because we turn it into a podcast, and the podcast is now D1 Speaks. And it's on every platform out there. It's from Apple's to Google, YouTube. It's on, I don't know, 20 or 25 different platforms. We've got a fantastic audience, a very loyal subscribing base now. Very, very fortunate. And we're fortunate to have Aaron Hines with us as well. And I got to say, Aaron, I think just a couple of years ago in the Nashville area, you were really voted as one of the top personal trainers. And what do you think it is that you're doing that's kind of setting yourself apart that makes you so successful with your clients?
Man, I think the number one thing is, man, I care about the success of the people who come in the doors. I've worked with a lot of different people. I've worked with, like I said, pro athletes are great, semi-pro athletes, but no, the biggest, I guess, thing is like getting kids in the door and their parents going, "Holy cow, this dude's like a completely different person since he's been working here." I've had kids like not speak to me for like 2 weeks, and just trying to, get. I was not because I'm like intimidating dude. It's just like they're introverted. They may have been bullied at school. They may just be, they may have other things going on, but that doesn't really make them the cool kid in class or in the grade. So I think it's more of that, where parents appreciate the fact that you're actually spending time with your kid, trying to teach them what to do. It's more than just like, how big can we get? How many bicep curls can we do? There's a lot more to that. And so I would say being voted is great, but I think it's more or less of, the outcome in the next 5 years of what happens to these kids, with that, whether they go on to college and play a sport, or they're just successful in school, or maybe they're going to a trade school and being, just a better human being. So I think that's the biggest thing for me, is just having the impact on, and being more of like a mentor in a way. They may not think of it like that, but it's just hearing things from me that your parents say, but it means more because I said it, not your mom and dad.
Yeah, I can see that. I'm sitting here, Aaron, I got to be quite honest with you, man. I'm just trying, no matter how introverted someone is, I'm just trying to imagine somebody working out with you and not talking to you. You've got such a great way about you. I mean, you got a great personality. You're super friendly, very, very knowledgeable. I have a very hard time believing that people struggle to communicate with you.
Well, it's interesting because as they get older, they kind of come out of their shell. I would say it's more of the middle school kids that are a little bit more introverted. They've told me times that I'm super intimidating, and I scared them when they started. So it's like, man, I'm not here to scare you. I'm here to, smile and have a good time, man. We're gonna have fun.
I love it. Hey, Aaron, if someone wanted to get in touch with you or just be able to follow you online or anything like that, what are some of the best ways for them to be able to reach out and find where you are?
Man, you can find me on online, and so it's premierperformancetrainer.com is my website. I'm on that website. You can find I'm on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the social. So I think on Twitter I'm at Premier PT. On Instagram it's Premier Performance TN. And usually my Instagram is more of kind of the sports performance side of things. So you'll see a lot more of the sports side on that. And my Facebook, I say, is for my parents and the old fogies. Because when I say I'm on Facebook, kids are go, "What's Facebook?" I was like, "Ah, man, that's the original OG of social media."
That's good stuff, Aaron, man. Do you do anything virtually, or is everything that you really primarily focus on in person?
Man, I do virtually. I do online training. I do programs for people who are, I say I've got people that are 2 or 3 hours away. I do online stuff for people. Some clients who are in Florida. Some are at college and whatnot. So, there's always an opportunity for that. And if something where you don't need the face to face, but maybe you need something to get you stronger, more explosive, I do online training programs through an app I have as well. So there's always an opportunity to work with me or one of my coaches.
Good stuff, man. Appreciate you walking through that. Let me ask you about not just the physical health piece, but the mental health piece. And one of the questions that I love to talk about, as we kind of walk through some of the background of our uncommitted guests when they come on, is just their mental approach to the game. And it's always interesting to hear the various answers that I get. But I gotta say, the one thing that is kind of persuasive, or that's kind of involved in every person's answer, would be the stress of being successful. I mean, you know, hey, they're putting pressure on themselves to be good in the classroom, but then they're certainly putting pressure on themselves to be good on the field as well. I mean, when you come up to bat, you want to be successful. When you're pitching, you want to be successful. You don't know who's watching. You want to win whatever you're doing. I mean, there's a lot of pressure that these kids are constantly putting on themselves. Do you get involved in any mental health aspect, or do you see the benefits of a well-conditioned body, so to say? The physical piece really kind of bleeds itself over into the mental piece as well?
Oh, well, yeah, some of that. I mean, the mental aspect is, I think, probably an aspect not a lot of people work on as much. They should, but I think it's more, I would say, kind of envisioning how good of an athlete you can be. I know that sounds probably, I don't know, maybe weird to some people, but that's kind of how I do with my business. Envision where I want to be, not where I'm at now. So if you can kind of think about, um, who knows, maybe it's closing your eyes and 30 seconds in, just trying to envision like how good do you want to be? And because I think sometimes the mental side of things, the stress factor can kind of limit how good you can be, and the pressure from outside sources, whether it's a coach, a parent, or maybe it's another person on the team. There's a lot of other factors that kind of impact our mental state. But I think if you can kind of tune that out in such a way that you can, be as good as you want to be, because there's only so much, pressure you can stand until you kind of implode, right? And I just find that to be somewhat overwhelming. So I don't know if what I do on top of that, man, I keep a journal just for my mental state. It sounds kind of maybe boring, or only females journal, diaries and things like that. It's not true. I just think you can get it out on paper, you can envision, and you can kind of let things go. I think you're going to be a lot better off than trying to keep that all built up. Because I mean, I've seen kids I've worked with kids before, probably one or two in the state, whatever sport they are, and then I think mentally just get burned out. And that's, kind of a big thing for me. Like, pace yourself. Like, if you don't want to play, like, speak up and don't play. Like, don't be forced to, because then you just kind of have that, like we said before, that state of overwhelm where you're like just doing it to please everybody else, and you're not really having the satisfaction of, I want to be an athlete. You're just kind of doing it because everybody else wants you to be an athlete.
It's good stuff, Aaron, all the way around. And I got to tell you, man, I can relate to so much of what you're talking about. And I'm sure people that are going to be listening to this, whether they're an athlete or a parent, they can absolutely appreciate it as well. And it kind of really leads to the next thing that I was thinking about, and that's, you being an entrepreneur, you owning your own business. I mentioned earlier to our audience that, hey, we don't know each other. We're just kind of getting to know each other. And Aaron, just to give you a little bit of background, my son played college baseball. He had an opportunity to go to a great school. Um, he ultimately left the baseball team, while he was in college. It just wasn't his real passion. What ultimately was his passion was fitness. He majored in exercise science. He is now a personal trainer. His goal is really to own his own gym. As he kind
No,
right,
nice.
exactly. And I think that's just kind of amazing as I've been listening to a lot of things that you say. I know he had a lot of mental pressure on him. We did too as parents as he was going through his prep career. We were really pushing for his success. He was driving for his success. And in many ways, you could look back during that period of time and with some regret because it didn't work out for him. But I got to tell you, ultimately it was baseball that led him to where he really truly wanted to be, which was in the weight room. Just absolutely loved it, and it gave him the opportunity to do what he's doing today, which is his passion. So, with that kind of in mind, what kind of advice would you give to other young athletes? Because there's a lot of young athletes that do enjoy the weight room. Maybe they do want to kind of get into personal training and so forth. Well, thinking about your own path, your own career, what kind of advice would you give to maybe some younger guys?
Um, I would, I guess the best piece of advice is find somebody smarter than me or smarter than you, whoever to kind of be a mentor or read. You can read as much as possible, but I think it's more application. If you can apply what you've learned and kind of fail and keep failing and thinking you know everything, that you're never gonna have, I would say, the perfect client. I came undergrad, I thought I knew everything. I didn't. I trained people, thought I still knew. And it really wasn't until I was trying to training at an orthopedic clinic that I didn't know as half as what I thought because I was working with people who had blown out their ACLs or Achilles and trying to find certain things to fit their programming. And it's athletics on that side of it. But just learning from people who are smarter than you, I think, is the biggest thing you can do. You're never gonna you think you know everything until you don't. And I'm still learning to this day of different problems and I say problems, different things. You can have something planned out for somebody, but they come in and go, "Man, I stubbed my toe at school today. I can't do anything lower body because I can't feel my toe. So what are we gonna do?" Well, kind of have to scrap. You don't have to scrap everything, but you've got to adjust, right? So you've got to think about not everybody's going to be the perfect client. Not everybody's going to be the perfect fit. But if you can find somebody who can, will take you under the wing and kind of teach you all those things to be better at your craft, whether that's fitness or whatever you want to do, I think that's going to be the biggest piece of advice I can give you because I bounced around quite a few jobs. I got fired, thought I knew everything until I didn't know how to run a business. So that's kind of where I found myself struggling with that. So find somebody in your area, or you can always reach out to people online. I mean, I've had people that I don't know reach out to me and ask me questions. I'm happy to help too, but I can only tell you as much as I know, right?
Good stuff. Thank you for your honesty and your candor. Big time right
Yeah.
there, Aaron. Hey, this has been a great night, man. I have absolutely enjoyed having you on and just kind of walking through some of your background and looking at what you're doing currently and who all you've helped. I hope that you've enjoyed this evening so far as well.
Man, it's been
Man,
awesome.
thank you. That's awesome. Hey, maybe we should kind of wrap it up with thinking about where you're going in the future. I mean, I don't want you to have to give away any kind of trade secrets, but if you're just kind of looking out here over the next, I don't know, 5, 10, maybe even 20 years, who knows? What is it that you really see is going to be kind of the next chapter in your life and where are you heading?
I don't know. That's my goal is always to be the mayor of fitness in Brentwood, Tennessee, and that's kind of an ego thing. So when you think of like training, what do you want training? You want speed training, strength training. You me to train your grandma and grandpa. I want to be the guy. I want to be the first person that comes in your mind that's like, you got to go see this guy. This guy knows what he's doing. It's for me. It's just I don't say it's much of a accolades. I've done a lot of things. I've written 2 books. I've been in local magazines. and I've been on podcasts and things like that. I'm just here to spread the wealth of what I know and to help other
Man,
people.
that's good stuff right there. Again, man, Aaron, I have absolutely enjoyed this evening. I'll tell everyone that's listening tonight, tune in tomorrow night. We're going to be back at 9 o'clock. We have got Austin Zemax on. He is Coach Austin Zemax. He's the head coach at Bryant and Stratton College. I mean, he's a young guy. I think he's like 27 years old. You know, you would almost think he's a college student, but instead he's a college coach. And I think it's going to be a fascinating conversation, kind of walk through his background, see what it's like to be a college athlete day to day on the baseball field, what the expectations are, maybe how to get on a coach's radar, that kind of thing. It's going to give us a ton of insight. So please dial in tomorrow night at 9 o'clock. It's going to be a fantastic conversation. Austin, man, I hope we're able to stay in touch. I'd love to be able to reach back out to you, sometime later in this year, early part of next year, and maybe just get a refresher and have you come back on and continue helping a lot of our young athletes.
Yeah, I'm more than happy to, man. I can talk for hours about this stuff. So there's a lot of things I learned over the years and a lot of things that I screwed up on. So, I'm happy to talk more about the wins and losses of being an athlete and things I learned to kind of set me up for where I am today.
Outstanding, man. Thank you again very, very much. Absolutely enjoyed this evening. And everyone who was able to join, thank you so much for your support. I think we'll end it here for tonight. So good night. Hey, let me ask you something. Are you ready to dominate at the plate this season? Blast Baseball is the #1 hitting improvement solution, trusted by more major league, college, and travel ball teams than any other. The Blast sensor attaches to the knob of any bat, providing real-time feedback with every swing. Metrics are automatically sent to a smartphone app, generating insights that allow you to analyze and improve your hitting like never before. Go to blastmotion.com and enter code NOWD1 and you will save $25 at checkout. Unlock your potential with Blast.